In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Happy Easter, everybody, on this, well, if you're in the New York area, it feels like we're in Scotland. It is cold, it is misty, and not going to be the nicest day weather-wise, but if you're with your family and you did a little Easter egg hunt like we did with my kids this morning, front and backyard, a lot of chocolate. The Easter basket thing keeps getting bigger. It's almost like Christmas at this point. Just saying, I don't remember this sort of thing when I was growing up. Maybe I got a Hershey bar, and that was the end of it, but the Easter Bunny becoming more and more generous in these 2020s that we are living in right now. A couple things to go through. UConn. I mean, this team, Danny Hurley, I know we're not listening to WFAN right now, but it is really incredible. The third final in the NCAA tournament he has gotten the UConn Huskies to in the last 4 years. Just incredible. I know it's always been a great program, but that, I don't remember the last time a team got to the finals 3 and 4 years. I think Duke, when I was in school, won back-to-back 91-92, and I think they got there in 94 now that I think about it. Sorry, I answered my own question, but it's very, very rare if I have to go back 30 years to find an example. But Michigan will be their opponent. They are 7.5-point favorites on Monday night for the title game. All right, let's get that out of the way and talk about much more important things, including the fact that these two pilots that this is right out of Top Gun Maverick. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. Most people out there probably have, considering it made like $1 billion and then some. You can make an argument it's a top 5 sequel of all time. It's probably the greatest sequel ever of a movie that, remember, the original Top Gun came out in 1986, I want to say. And then Tom Cruise comes back like basically 30 years later and looks the same, which is just, I got to talk to that guy's hair guy, skin guy, the whole thing. But in Top Gun Maverick, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here since, again, I think most of you have seen it. There is the climactic scene at the end where Maverick has to eject after getting hit by enemy fire, and then Goose's son, Rooster, also has to eject, and somehow they survive, right? They actually steal an enemy plane and were able to get back home. But in this case, kind of the same thing where one of our F-15s is shot down in the southern part of Iran, and both pilots ejected. And I guess it was going so fast that one pilot landed in one place and another pilot landed in another. The first pilot was rescued pretty quickly. The second pilot actually had to survive in the mountains while wounded for a day while the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, was hunting him down. And the U.S. sends in hundreds of people, militarily, obviously, to find this pilot who had a beacon on him so they could locate him eventually, was able to get him out, and the U.S. didn't suffer any casualties whatsoever while we took out more than a few Revolutionary Guard members in the process. And just the coordination between our intelligence agencies and the military is really extraordinary and should get much praise by our legacy media that seems to be rooting for the U.S. to fail in Iran, because that would mean Trump fails, and reflexively the media, for the most part, not everybody obviously, but many members in it would love to see Trump fail here, because that means Democrats sweep in the midterms in November. Like that's the whole calculus here, which is just really screwed up thinking when you're rooting against our own military. But the point is that in this case, the fact that we were able to get these two out and did so through a misinformation campaign run by the CIA where we were sending out radio signals that we knew the Iranians would intercept, saying that we already had rescued both pilots. This was done to throw off the scent as far as trying to find that second pilot. And it worked for the most part. I mean, there were still some Revolutionary Guard members that were in the area trying to confirm that those pilots were rescued. But the fact that we ran that and then we're able to get our special forces in there to get these pilots out really is just one of the more incredible things that you will hear as far as our military, which has been so awesome. I mean, think about Maduro down in Venezuela, to go into a military compound, which was basically secured by Cubans that were trained by the Russians, had Russian military equipment. We got Maduro out, read him his rights, and then brought him back to the United States, where he is currently standing trial without losing one U.S. service member. And now again here in Iran, just really incredible. And when you look at the context of war overall, to lose, I think we've lost 13 U.S. service members, and we honor them all. But you compare that to, say, the Iraq War, where we lost more than 4,400 and hundreds, if not thousands, injured or maimed in some way, shape, or form. You look at the numbers from Vietnam and the Korean War, World War II. We're 1 month in, and people are complaining. But overall, from a military perspective, this couldn't be going as well as it possibly could in the context of war, where even when our jets are shot down in enemy territory, we're able to get the pilots out and home and safe. Meanwhile, President Trump, he is now saying that, let's quote him, there is a good chance that Iran will make a deal with the United States, but, quote, if they don't make a deal, I'm blowing up everything over there. That is from the president. He says that we are now in deep negotiations with Iran, and he expects, doesn't guarantee, of course, that a deal can be met by Monday night. That is when the president's 10-day deadline expires. And I think Iran should know by now that when Trump makes a deadline, if you don't meet it, he is not bluffing in any way, shape, or form. The Iranians would be smart to make a deal here at this point because their economy is about to collapse. And from within, eventually, one would think that the people who obviously have been in opposition of this horrible, evil regime that killed 35,000 people, protesters, just a month and a half ago in broad daylight. They don't have the support of the people. The military is crumbling. Most of their leadership has been eviscerated. The varsity, the JV, whoever the backup to the JV is, they're running out of leaders, they're running out of people to run the country. So if I were to bet, I would say by tomorrow, we should have some sort of announcement. And the markets obviously will react accordingly to that news, and hopefully gas prices start to come down. Because when you think about the midterms, gas prices are still around $4. You're looking at Democrats taking 25, 30 seats when they only need 4 to take back the House. And that sort of blue wave will not be pleasant if you are a supporter of this president, because then impeachment hearings will begin in perpetuity under House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. Meanwhile, it is Easter, and of course we have to talk about, well, what the day means, obviously, for Catholics. And it's Passover, for that matter. They have, sometimes they meet up, sometimes they don't, but in this point we're celebrating both. I mean, Sebastian Maniscalco, when we're talking about top fives, right? Top 5 comedian of all time, I will now put him in this category, is Maniscalco. He's that good. And look, I'm not a prude, all right? I'm not a wimp, but I like the fact he doesn't have to drop F-bombs every other sentence in order to make a joke, because it gets really old really fast. And you could say, a joke, come on, it's part of humor. You could still be funny without having to do that. So I could play this entire clip right now, which I will give full and total credit to Sid Rosenberg. He played this earlier this week on his show. I had planned to play this on Easter Sunday, so we both had the same idea. Great minds think alike, I suppose. But Sid beat me to it as far as getting it on the air, so I will give him full attribution on this. But here's Maniscalco talking about the Passover meal. Now, Maniscalco, of course, is Italian. He married a Jewish woman, and as an Italian, I'm not an Italian. People think I am because my name ends in an A, and I'm from New Jersey. So therefore, that must make me Italian. But no, Basque, Spanish, as far as the name is concerned. But the meals, having grown up around many Italians, are always awesome. And Passover meals, maybe not so much. So we're going to have some fun with this. This is Maniscalco on when he went to his first Passover meal, and it's one of the funniest things you'll ever hear. Cut number 17, go.
But Italians and Jews, very similar. You know, people say same corporation, different division. All right? We get along. There's an obvious, thing with the religion. I went to my first Passover dinner. That's what she's like, well, my mother's going to have Pass. Okay, we'll go to the dinner. 7:30, we sit down at her mother's house. I'm starving, right? Starving. They start passing out pamphlets, like reading material. I'm like, what's going on? What are we doing here? What's with the... She's like, no, we read for 2 hours. 2 hours? I said, listen, I'm Italian. As soon as I sit at a table, I got to have bread within 15 seconds of sitting down. All right? I need something to do with my right hand. I need some oil coming out. We got oil? I need oil.
Oil.
Now. Hungry. And the food they start bringing out, oh, God, terrible, terrible food. Jews have no idea what the hell they're doing in the kitchen. These people have no cuisine. Celery, crackers, jam. I'm like, what is it? We're losing people. People are leaving. We need food. After breakfast, they fall apart, the Jews. After a bagel, cream cheese, lox, where are they going? They got nothing. They have nothing. Has anybody ever said to you, we went to this Jewish restaurant last night?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The gefilte, amazing. I respect the Jews, but let's just have the Italians cater the Passover meal. All right? Come on. I could read for a couple of hours with some meatballs on the table.
I mean, how good is that, right? And all due respect, we're just having some fun here as far as the foods of different ethnicities and different religions. But anyway, happy Easter and Passover to everybody out there. This is the Joe Concha, Tunnel of the Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Back with so much more, including Jon Stewart's take on Easter versus Passover in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. It's the Joe Concha, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Easter Sunday. So we had Sebastian Maniscalco's quite awesome take on Passover meals. Now we have Jon Stewart, who, again, we have two comedians who married outside of their religions. In Jon Stewart's case, he married a Catholic woman, and he has a take on Easter versus Passover. And let's just say, in Stewart's mind, Easter is winning in a blowout right now as far as incentivizing the children. This is cut number 18. Go.
Allow me to get personal for just a moment. As a father of mixed faith children who are exposed to both Christian and Jewish holidays, I can't help but feel that we Jews are getting our asses kicked out here. What are we doing? We've already conceded defeat in the Christmas v. Hanukkah kerfuffle. Well, seeing that the Christians are celebrating the birth of their Savior, and Hanukkah is acknowledging oil lasting longer than it would normally last. The key is the children, people. That's what Christians have figured out. You get the children, you win. Let's check out both sides' holiday pitch. Okay, kids, Easter weekend is an observation of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection. So, ba-bam! Ba-bam! A basket with candy. We got chocolate bunnies. We got candy eggs. We got chocolate bunnies who lay candy eggs filled with more chocolate. How are Christians the one that came up with plastic grass, by the way? We're the ones with hay fever. Yeah. Hey, 5-year-olds, basket filled with candy and jelly beans or horseradish still in root form? Oh. Would you like the treats a magical bunny brought you or a bone from a dead baby lamb? Don't worry. We used its blood to mark the door.
Oh. And that goes on actually for 6 minutes, but in the interest of time and copyright infringement, we had to cut it there. But yeah, I mean, Easter, kids really do. My kids, I've never seen more chocolate over the last 2 days than I have seen, and they seem to be enjoying it. Even my son said that Easter is his favorite holiday. I don't know if it's for the whole, Christ has risen thing. It should be, of course. I'm not advocating this one way or another. I'm just saying that the candy certainly helps as far as the sale of what Easter and I guess Passover is all about. Even though Passover, I didn't realize that about the lamb bone and the blood. Anyway, I'm learning a lot. Let's go to on a more serious take on Easter. Catholicism, is it on the comeback? Absolutely, it is. And more Gen Zers, those are the youngins, adults, are going to church more, reading the Bible more. Here's Michael Smerconish on CNN talking about this comeback. Cut number 15, go.
There's a new and somewhat unexpected story emerging inside American churches. Not decline, but growth. According to the New York Times, Catholic dioceses across the country are reporting a sharp increase in adult conversions, with some seeing their highest numbers in years. In Detroit, more than 1,400 new Catholics expected this Easter, a 21-year high. In Washington, nearly 1,800 will join, also up from last year. And it's not just happening in one region. The Times reports this trend is showing up in large and small dioceses alike. Meanwhile, the Washington Post takes us inside one parish in New York City where attendance has jumped 20% in just the last 6 months, with services now so packed that people are turned away at the door. And this is not limited to Catholicism. According to another New York Times report, Orthodox Christian churches also seeing a surge, with priests describing record numbers of new converts, many of them young men. So, across different traditions, a similar pattern is emerging.
Isn't that just amazing? And what great news. And some of this has to do with, you look at the positive things that came out of, and I hate to put it that way, but when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Bible sales went up 36% in the month following, and more young men are now attending church and cite Kirk talking about faith and family as a reason for that. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. Happy Easter, everybody. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Back with so much more in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, on this Easter Sunday, we also have to acknowledge that we have certain months that are given to races, and maybe some folks in that particular race, in this case Black History Month, are not happy about that because maybe it looks exploitative. Maybe it's just contrived and cheesy just to win some cheap political points. And I'm talking about Red from The Shawshank Redemption, the greatest movie of all time. Morgan Freeman. There's a little flashback here when he was on 60 Minutes talking to Mike Wallace about Black History Month and how, well, he's not crazy about it. I think this is just beyond perfect. as far as articulating everything wrong with labeling certain things and branding certain things as if that makes something more moral and pure. Anyway, I can't say it as well as Morgan can, so here we go. Cut number 2, go.
Black History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? No, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history.
How are we going to get rid of racism until...
Stop talking about it.
Right. Thank you.
I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman. You want to say, well, I know this white guy named Mike Wallace. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I mean, and that's 60 Minutes. So a good 15, 20 million people saw that. And it's worth replaying every month that we have for a certain, like, LGBTQ plus month. Yay. And he makes a great point, because he asked Mike Wallace, when's White History Month? And then Wallace responds, well, I'm Jewish. He goes, oh, okay. When's Jewish History Month? Get it? And that's why I think most people in the black community probably agree with Morgan Freeman on this one. No question about it. Anyway, Gavin Newsom, who is as white as Wonder Bread, this is another flashback for 60 Minutes, because I guess I'm in that kind of mood today, on his high-speed rail project and how that's going. And this is not good, because, again, Newsom wants to run the country the way he runs California. You know, California with the highest unemployment rate in the country, the highest poverty rate in the country, the biggest exodus out of one state to other red states in the country, and a country that has, apparently what we're seeing now, more fraud than Somalia. It's like Mogadishu over in the Golden State. But anyway, here's how Newsom's high-speed rail project is going, and this is on 60 Minutes, which won't be good for his presidential chances. As I have said, I told Jesse Waters a week or two ago, I've said on Fox many times, and I think about it, that Gavin Newsom will not be the Democratic nominee, because there is way too much baggage and way too much of a horrible record to defend. And oh, by the way, he's as phony as a $3 bill. This is cut number 1. Go.
Californians got on board for a $33 billion high-speed train that was supposed to connect L.A. to San Francisco by 2020. Instead, they have this, an unfinished line connecting, wait for it, Bakersfield and Merced. Why have 20 other countries managed to build high-speed rail while America hasn't?
We've heard people saying what happened in the past is the past. Failure is not an option.
Failure is always an option.
Yeah. So this was something that Newsom had talked about for many, many years, how they're going to complete this. And at one point he lamented the fact that, you hear about all these high-speed rails in Japan and in Asian countries and in Europe, and why can't we do that here? I'm going to do this here. And it failed miserably to the tune of billions of taxpayer dollars. Again, this guy is now trailing, believe it or not, by a huge margin. All right. 15 points behind Kamala Harris in the latest Harvard-Harris poll for the Democratic nomination. Now, neither candidate has declared, but when you're down to Kamala, the worst candidate of all time that has run for president, with all due respect to John Kerry and Al Gore, that's a big problem. And he's down 6 points in the last month alone. The more he talks, the more people resist him, much like Kamala, quite frankly. Anyway, here's Gavin, by the way, talking about how he just couldn't be with his wife at the time, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who I've been on the air with Kim many times before. I think she's an ambassador now to Greece, I believe. But she's just like one of the sweetest people you ever meet. And here he is saying, well, once you went to go work for Fox, well, that just was not going to fly while I was looking to take over California. This is cut number 3. Go.
I've got a marriage that starts to sort of fall apart. My wife at the time, Kimberly, was a young woman in a hurry and ultimately went to work for Fox News in New York. That was not compatible with being first lady of San Francisco. And yeah, you fell into the trap.
Yeah. Okay. So she went to go work for Fox. So, love only has so much you could deal with. And that was too much for Gavin Newsom. Good Lord. Meanwhile, let's go to, this is phenomenal, John Fetterman, the voice of reason for the Democrat Party, going off on AOC, because AOC apparently now wants to oppose all funding for Israel, including for the Iron Dome, which has saved thousands of lives, if not Israel itself. Goes off on AOC here and talks about in general how, we're reading reports now that Fetterman is probably going to lead the Democratic Party. I don't think he becomes a Republican necessarily, given the way he votes, but certainly an independent. But either way, he is the sole common sense voice within this party. And boy, if you told me that a couple of years ago when he was running, I would say you were crazy. But look who's crazy now. Cut number 5. Go.
With Israel, and then AOC announced she's now going to vote and is going to support even things like Iron Dome. Outrageous. I mean, I'm not surprised, of course. I may have lost the socialist vote and the pro-Iran vote in my party, but that's part of my party that's growing, unfortunately.
Yeah, the pro-Iran, pro-socialist wing of the party. That's where the energy is right now. And that's why when we hear about certain moderate candidates, I was asked yesterday at an Easter party, what do you think of Andy Bashir? And he is the governor of Kentucky, Democrat, red state, and he's at 60% approval. So you say that's a pretty good mix, right? A reasonable Democrat who is popular in a red state, maybe that is the type of guy they need as a nominee, and he will not survive the primary process. It is way too rigged to talk about the so-called climate crisis and to talk about how we need to invest trillions in government-run health care and how, we really should abolish ICE and basically reopen the border again. A guy like Bashir, he ain't going to last the same way Bloomberg didn't last in 2020. Another centrist, relatively, of course. But he ran New York City pretty well for 3 terms. That I do know, having lived there when Bloomberg was mayor at the time. Anyway, here is, by the way, it's really remarkable. Stephen A. Smith, speaking of Democrats running for president. All right, little curveball here. Sorry, guys. This is going to be cut number 9. But Stephen A. talking about how he's losing friends over his political views, yet he may run for president as a Democrat. But boy, he sounds a lot like a Republican. This is cut number 9. Go.
People who walk away from you and denigrate you because they disagree with a position, they were never there to begin with. I can't tell you how many friends I've lost over what they perceive my political views to be, and it's heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking, but they don't realize you did me a favor. I didn't know that our friendship was that fragile that you would turn against me and denigrate me like that just because you think we disagree on a particular issue. Kick rocks, go to hell, get out my life. I don't want to see you or talk to you ever again.
And I've had friends, which is utterly remarkable to me, that some of these people attended my wedding. They know who I am, right? And the minute I signed with Fox News years ago, suddenly I noticed one, not going to name names, but I was unfriended on Facebook. And suddenly the texts, which used to come in fairly often, just a check-in kind of thing, how the kid's doing, suddenly stopped. And I wrote this person at one point. I said, I think something weird happened. It says we're no longer friends on Facebook, and I haven't heard from you lately, and I never heard anything back. And then I heard through a third party that this person couldn't accept being my friend because I work for Fox News. Really? Do you listen to me? On the radio? On Fox? All right? Am I some sort of provocateur extremist? Alex Jones type, no. I just give my opinion on things, and I think it comes down in a fairly pragmatic, common sense worldview that I think a lot of people share, whether you're Democrat or Republican or like. And then I also had some other people scream at me in texts about things that nothing I said, but something they heard on Fox, and how could I possibly work there and reduce myself to working at the number one network in the country? Please. All right. The people that criticize Fox are the people that don't watch Fox. They just hear about things through other people about what may have been said on Fox. And that's the way that works. And same with WABC as well. But I know exactly what Stephen A. is going through here, where they weren't your friends if they honestly will not talk to you ever again because of where you work or what you believe, quite frankly. Right? I'm sorry. I believe that less taxes are a good thing, putting more money back in your pocket. I believe in securing the border and more money for the military and the police to secure this country. I don't believe that men should play against women in sports and pummel them in sports like boxing. I think it's completely unfair to these girls that are reduced to second, third, fourth place because they're going against a guy who has a chemical advantage. I could go on in terms of the things that I support. But again, these aren't radical things. They're just things that I think are best for my family and best for the country. Anyway, this is very interesting. Speaking of the extreme left, Brandon Johnson. Let's go, Brandon. He is the mayor of Chicago, my favorite city, or at least maybe my formerly favorite city to visit. This guy is now at something like anywhere between 6 and 11% approval in Chicago as a Democrat. And now he's saying, you know what? These teen mobs that are wreaking havoc in places like the Loop, in places like the Navy Pier, they actually should not be called mobs. They should be called something more respectful. And this is why he's at 6 to 10% approval. Cut number 11, go.
That's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. I didn't say that. Hold on a second, okay? Respectfully, these large gatherings. These large gatherings, just hold on a second, y'all.
They're mobs.
I promise you. We have time to talk. It's important that we speak of these dynamics in an appropriate way.
We should really show the proper respect to people that are destroying my city. Oh, man. You thought Lori Lightfoot was bad. This guy literally is on tape saying we should defund the police, and then wins in Chicago because something like 30% of the population comes out to vote. Because I guess they think it's a foregone conclusion, right? Any Republican there is never going to win. And it's just a shame that, again, this guy, they're not mobs. They're actually large gatherings, like a beach party. Uh-huh. What a joke. Anyway, before we go to break, Jim Acosta, who calls himself a journalist and probably the leader of Les Resistants as far as a guy who says he's a journalist but actually is a complete and total advocate of the Democrat Party and an activist like Don Lemon is, now is warning that CNN, because David Ellison may be, taking the network to the center. That's a very bad thing. It could be a propaganda network. Jim Acosta says this without any self-awareness or something called a mirror whatsoever. Cut number 14, go.
That's something to be worried about because it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they're going to try to impose that same kind of top-down editorial mandate over at CNN. That, hey, we're going to be a little bit more MAGA. We're going to be a little bit more Trumpy. And, I think that's dangerous. We don't need to have propaganda networks.
Oh, we don't, Jim. You were the leader of one. Oh, that's just perfect. Between him and Don Lemon, two people that managed to get fired from CNN. You know how hard that is to do? They had a guy, still do actually, now I think about it, Jeffrey Toobin, right, who didn't get the shaft, pun intended, actually pleasuring himself during a Zoom call with female employees on it. And he still didn't get fired for that, which is just incredible to me. If you can't get fired, Brian Stelter got fired and rehired. So if you get fired from CNN permanently, like Lemon and Acosta, you really, really are out there. if they can't even put up with you. But, well, there you go. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. We wrap this puppy up on a happy Easter in just a moment.
It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. It's the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. Now, here's Joe Concha.
And welcome back, everybody. So, when you think loser, do you think of, I don't know, the Washington Bullets? Oh, no, they're the Wizards now. I like Bullets. They changed the name because they were afraid that bullets, which obviously, when you're talking in basketball parlance, means shooting bullets, like, you know, hitting jumpers and not missing. They changed the name because they were afraid that it was leading to violence, the Washington Bullets. So now they're the Wizards. But, you know, I think loser, I think of that franchise. I think of the Cleveland Browns, who, forget never winning a Super Bowl. They've never been to a Super Bowl. That's pretty hard to do, right? So, I don't know. I could go through like the loser list in every sport. New York Rangers, one cup, 86 years. Missing the playoffs again, guys. Horrible. And I'm on a station in New York saying that, but I can insult these people because I'm a Devils fan, and it is my right, damn it, with our 3 Stanley Cups. The point is that when I think loser in politics, I think Stacey Abrams of Georgia, who ran for governor not once but twice and lost twice, and then after she lost the first time, would not concede because she said the election was stolen from her, which is supposed to be a big, big no-no, that when Trump does it, it is a threat to democracy, attacking our free and fair elections. But Stacey Abrams does it. It gets her on TV all the time. She is a hero on the left for losing. And here she is on the SAVE Act, which goes about as predictably as one would expect. Cut number 4, go.
And in elections that are decided on the margins, voter suppression comes together, whether it's ending mail-in voting, using citizenship proof, although every citizen you have to prove your citizenship to get on the rolls today. These more restrictive policies all come together to make it harder for average people to be heard. If you're a senior, if you're rural, if you're disabled, if you're a student, if you're a person of color, those are 5 populations that when these bills and these rules and these executive orders come to fruition, shave enough points off of elections that Republican authoritarians can game the outcome.
Oh, man. 85% of people in this country support showing an ID when you vote and showing that you're a U.S. citizen when you vote. And to say that all these people you just named, those 5 groups, are too stupid to figure out how to get an ID. I don't know where my birth certificate is. Just call the town when you were born. They have a records office. They will provide you a birth certificate. It really is that simple. And that's the road the Democrats are going on. And Stacey Abrams being the loudest voice in the room, again, after losing 2 elections decisively in the Peach State. Meanwhile, Mark Thiessen, my colleague over at Fox, has an awesome solution for opening the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, that is very, very key to shipping, whether that be oil, whether that be just standard cargo ships in general carrying goods from point A to point B. Otherwise, you have to go all the way around the Horn of Africa, which obviously takes more time, costs more money, and then those costs are passed on to people, which means higher inflation. Here is Thiessen on the Strait of Hormuz and how we open up that sucker. Cut number 6, go.
I think, quite frankly, what President Trump ought to do is he ought to have announce that he's going to have a Hormuz transit tariff. And that instead of Iran charging $2 million a vessel going through the Strait of Hormuz, the United States is going to charge a $2 million escort fee for every vessel going through the Strait of Hormuz, which is about $9 billion a month, $100 billion a year in revenue coming in, and we will waive that fee for any country that participates in the coalition to open up the Strait of Hormuz. That will open it up, and reward the good guys who are helping us and punish those who decide to stay on the sidelines.
Well done, Mark Thiessen. Money talks. That's what's going to work here. Anyway, this has been the Joe Concha Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show. We're back next Sunday at 11 a.m. I'm back on WABC at 9 p.m. and on stations around the country. Until then, 2 words for you. Bye-bye.